Now, keeping in theme with the show today, now oftentimes as parents, we focus on supplies, uniforms, schedules, but what about the emotional readiness of our children to get back to school? So if you have a teenager or if you're between the age of 13 and 17, do you ever feel lonely at times? Or sometimes lack confidence or even struggle to make new friends? Well, maybe our guest co-host can help. So please welcome to the show family and educational well-being expert Jasmine Navarro. Jasmine, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a bit of an intense time, isn't it? Because everyone's just back to school. A lot of the times parents would have changed schools and there's a bit of an adjustment period for all the kids. So what would you say is the best way to deal with this transitional phase?
I think it always comes back to communication.
Yeah.
You know, it's about, being able to express yourself, giving your children the safe space to express themselves, non-judgment, and just letting them be themselves. If they're feeling anxious, if they're feeling tired, stressed, whatever they're feeling, give them that space to just feel that.
But also, in a place like UAE, it's such a cultural melting pot. How much of our cultural influences plays a part in how we as parents deal with children?
I mean, that's a really, really good question. But I think at the end of it all, wherever you're from, whatever you do, whatever you believe in, our emotions speak the same language. So we all feel the same emotions. So I think it's about just, again, having that, as long as you give your child that safe space, it's not about, having all these solutions, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to solve everything. No, it's just give your child that safe space. Let them feel.
You said solutions, and that is the most difficult thing I'm struggling with at the moment, which is I want to solve my child's problem because it seems like there's a very obvious, easy solution, but you handicap them, right? My question for you, though, is I feel like my kids are dealing with a lot more anxiety than I ever feel like we grew up with. How do you, I don't know, what kind of tips do you have for dealing with kids' anxiety and panic attacks now, which is a new thing for us as well?
I mean, we hear this a lot, don't we? Everybody's anxious, children are anxious, teenagers are anxious, and I think the most important thing is to acknowledge those emotions. It's always how we respond to our emotions. We all feel anxious sometimes, and that's okay. But how do we respond to it? And the number one thing is there are no right or wrong feelings. It's okay to feel anxious, but how are we responding to it? So the best thing to respond to, if your child's feeling anxious, is to, ask them, how are you feeling? Okay, I'm feeling anxious. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with you, because a lot of the times we can panic and think, oh, my child's feeling anxious, then I feel anxious, and then I'm showing that I'm anxious because they're anxious, and you just go round and round, but it's like, no, it's okay to feel anxious. It's okay. And if you want to go a step further, you can say, where are you feeling that in your body? Where is it? Okay, they might say, oh, it's in my tummy. Okay, that's fine. Maybe you can say, what color is it? Explore that feeling. But the most important thing is they're not doing anything wrong. They're not wrong just because they're feeling anxious. Especially if you're going back to school the first day, it's normal to feel anxious. We're human beings, we will have these feelings, and some of them are uncomfortable, but that's okay. But again, it's how we deal with, how we manage the feelings. So acknowledge them, describe them, and feel them. They are uncomfortable, but that is part of being human.
Well, Jasmine, it's interesting you bring up all the anxiety, because I want to know about balance when it comes to anxiety and parenting in general, because obviously back in my day there wasn't a big focus on mental health, but I feel like some people can be overly involved in their kids' lives / mental health. When do you think, because it's normal to be anxious, right? Especially when you're a teenager, hormones are raging. When do you think people can take it too far, and what advice would you give them?
Take it too far, you mean think that there's a
in
serious
terms of being concerned about every aspect of their child's
Helicopter
life?
parents?
Okay. Well, I think, again, of course there's limits. Of course, if your child is, having problems and they're not going to school, they're not sleeping, they're not eating properly, their routine is disrupted, then there could be a problem, and maybe it's best to seek a counsellor or a coach or something like that. But if they're just, feeling anxious because it's their first day at school, or they have an exam, or, there's a new class at school that they're afraid of, that's okay. Just have that conversation. but let them have the conversation. And don't say to them, oh, you need to think positive. You know, it's okay if you're feeling anxious. You don't always have to feel positive. So, I don't know if that answers your question.
When you deal with families and young children, you emphasize the power of small, consistent daily habits. So what would you say are some practical tips that we can apply, or practical strategies that we can apply in our day-to-day lives?
I think adults as well. I mean, of course, I think parents are the role model, right? So however you're managing your anxiety as a parent, your child will probably copy you, So really how you're behaving, your child is picking up on everything. So really it comes back to the parent as well. If you want your child to manage their emotions in a positive way, a healthy way, then you need to. So you need to model that behavior.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you for a second
Yes.
because I really want some clarity on that.
Yes.
I have quite a bit of anxiety. Is
Okay,
it
and
good
that's
for me to
okay.
show my children that I also struggle
Yes.
with stress and anxiety, and then show them how I cope? Or
Exactly.
do I not want to, I don't want to say normalize, because obviously we want to normalize all aspects
Yes,
of mental
yes,
health.
yes.
But do I want them to suddenly enlarge that in their heads? Like, I'm concerned about that. If I start saying, oh, I'm really nervous about this, that, are they then going to start becoming really nervous about things that maybe they don't need to overthink?
Well, they need to see that you're feeling these emotions, which is normal because it's part of being human, but also they need to see how you manage, how you overcome those emotions, how you overcome your difficulties, because then that's what they're going to learn as well. It's like, okay, it's okay to feel anxious because this will pass as well. So you have to show them
Jasmine, I haven't
everything.
learned yet.
You have to show them everything.
Show them.
But that's okay, and it's not about being the perfect parent, because that's what a lot of parents do. They try to, protect their children from everything. But then when things happen in life, which they do, children are confused. I shouldn't be feeling like this, and then they're not acknowledging their feelings, because I should be feeling happy. I should. They're suppressing everything, and this is when the problem comes.
What are some of the biggest warning signs that parents should look out for to know if their child needs expert help?
I think, maybe they're isolating themselves, they're in their room all of the time, spending a lot of time on social media. I know all children are on social media, but too much time in their rooms. Maybe it's when their routine changes, something changes in their routine, so maybe not sleeping, but I think spending the time alone is the biggest sign. Not mixing with friends at school. I think it's very good to have that relationship with the teacher as well, to find out how are they doing at school. Are they mixing? Are they talking with their friends? Things like that.
Well, Jasmine, we're so glad to have you here with us, and we're going to get plenty more advice from you, so stick around as our guest co-host.